What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute, but we're finally here. I took a little bit of a break this summer. My last video, I don't remember, like in June, I think, it was a quarterback's tier list, but it's been a minute. I took a break, but we're back. We're finally getting back into football season, and it's time for some power rankings, NFL power rankings here. If you're new to this, I just go on Tier Maker and just rank them on the tiers, different tiers. So yeah, it's been a minute, guys, but let's get back to doing this right now. Starting out with the number 32 team in the NFL. I'm very excited for this season. And the worst team in the NFL, I do believe, is the Atlanta Falcons this year. Atlanta Falcons looking like Marcus Mariota is going to be their starter this season. That's fine. But this defense is atrocious. Really, I did not like the Drake London pick by the Falcons. This team might be able to get away with some run game. They got a decent enough running backs to do so. But yeah, this team is not looking good this year. I do not expect a lot out of the Falcons. I think this team is the worst team in the league. And number 31, I do think it's the Texans. It's very tight between these two. But the Houston Texans, I do believe, last year we saw some of this. I think this Texas team could have this mentality that we have nothing to lose and actually come out and win a few games. I just do not have the feeling that the Falcons can do that this year. I think this team, did a good job in the draft. Falcons, I don't think, did a good job in the draft. And I think that separates them a little bit. I think this team is going to be smarter this year. I think this team could be a little bit better, but it's tight. Both these teams, very similar problems. Just Mills, I think, is their starter again this year. Not sure who is going to be. But yeah, Houston just not looking too great. Number 30, we got the Chicago Bears. And a lot of you guys might be a little bit surprised, last team in the trash tier here, but the Chicago Bears, I think, have done a horrible job building around Justin Fields. This offensive line sucks. Straight up sucks. Might be the worst in the league. Justin Fields is going to be running for his life right now. The receiving core, not great. Running game, Montgomery, they could do something there. Defense, it's usually decent for this team, but I am very nervous for Justin Fields. I think this could be very bad. This is what this year should have been about, is building around Justin Fields. I don't think they did that in free agency and in the draft well at all. This team, I'm praying for Justin Fields. Hopefully he doesn't turn into a bust, but right now, if I'm going to be honest, I think he will turn out to be a bust. Just this Bears team, they've not done a good job at all. And hopefully I'm wrong in that for Justin Fields' sake. But yeah, no. So those are the trash teams. I think these teams are going to, just suck. Trash tier, as a tier. I don't think these teams are going to get many wins at all. Maybe 3-4 wins at the most. But yeah, that's about it for these teams. So let's move on to the bad tier. And the bad tier, it's pretty straightforward. These are bad teams. I don't think these teams are any close to being able to make the playoffs. But I could see these teams, getting up there in wins maybe. Maybe pulling off a few upsets here and there. That's really all the bad tier's about. So number 29, the Jaguars. And the only thing that's keeping the Jaguars out of the trash tier for me is just, Trevor Lawrence here. I would say that about the Bears, but Trevor with Justin Fields, but Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, is such a better quarterback. This team also hasn't done they've done pretty well, building around Trevor Lawrence. I would say this free agency. It's been a little bit weird what this team has done. It's the Jaguars. They do weird stuff. So, yeah, I think the Jaguars are going to be a team, though, that, if Trevor Lawrence clicks, without Urban Meyer there, Maybe I don't like the head coach, Doug Peterson, that they hired. I don't think that was a very smart hiring, but we'll see what happens there. He could be a very good one. He did win a Super Bowl there in Philly. But, yeah, the Jaguars, interesting team here. I think their defense will be all right. I could see this team maybe being in a decent tier. But with all the things that have gone on, all the mistakes that they made this free agency, and the draft, I don't think this team's going to be too well. The Jaguars, I do believe, are 29. Number 28, we got the New York Jets. And New York Jets, this is with Zach Wilson injured. With him in, I do believe this team can be a decent team. If he's injured, I do think this team's a bad team in the bad at 28. Because, I think this team has done an excellent job in the draft. One of the best drafts we've seen for this team in a very long time. Robert Saleh, I think, is going to have a good year with this defense. I think this defense is going to be surprisingly well. It's really all about Zach Wilson. These injury concerns, I think, might be a little bit worrisome for this team. This Jets fans probably think they have a big curse there, which I don't blame them. It's been like this for a while. But New York, I think there's hope. I think if Zach Wilson can come back, this team can hang around like the 6-7-ish win mark, and maybe even the 8-ish, and be a team that, is decent. But most importantly, Zach Wilson develops. That's what the Jets, I feel like, are hoping for. So Jets at number 28. Number 27, we are going to go Commanders, the new name for Washington. Very desperate move, I think, trading for Carson Wentz. But what can you say? I think the Commanders, they got a good running game. Their defense is pretty solid. Their receiving core is, decent, but not great. And Carson Wentz is not that good of an option. So I'll put that all together. This team's just going to be a bad team. I don't think this team's going to be too well. I think that they can pull off a few upsets here and there, but I don't think this team's going to be a playoff team or anything at all. Maybe in the NFC they could surprise me because this NFC is kind of wide open this year for that 7 seed, I think. But, yeah, the Commanders at number 27 right there. And then number 26, I got the New York Giants. And New York, New York is another one of these teams. With Daniel Jones, this is his year. He needs to prove that he can be a decent quarterback in the NFL. This is his year to do so. I think with Brian Daboll there, he can maybe do it. He can maybe get to Daniel Jones and maybe do something. But right now, I think the Giants are going to be a team that I was very content maybe putting this team in decent because I think they had a good draft. I think this team's going to be a pretty darn solid team. But, yeah, I think the Giants are just going to be, bad team. Could pull off some upsets. Very similar to all these other 4 teams. So that is the bad tier right there. Let's move on to the decent tier. Starting out with a team that probably a lot of you would think would be in the bad tier, but the Lions. I honestly think the Lions are going to be a very well-coached team this year. And I think this Lions team is going to be a team that can come out, pull off a few upsets, maybe get in these NFC, maybe even slide into the playoffs. I don't think it'll happen, but honestly, this Lion team had a good draft. I think this defense is going to be pretty solid for them. And I think this offense will do enough for them. Maybe this curse, the Lions, I feel like a couple more years, this team could be, maybe even next year, this team could be a playoff team. Jared Goff, I think, there's better options out there, but he is like one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league. He is going to get the job done, I think, for you this season. So I think the Lions are going to be a surprise team this year. And then number 24, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Minnesota did not have a good draft. I think it's getting to rebuild time. Kirk Cousins, I think this is going to be his last year there. And I feel like we're going to see the same thing from this Vikings team as we did last year. Just a decent team. I think this team got worse, so a little bit worse. But yeah, the Vikings, it's time to rebuild there. And I feel like they know that. So if this is going to be their last run of things, I feel like, because I just don't think this team is going to make the playoffs at all. I think a lot of people would have the Vikings a little bit higher on their tier list, but on their power rankings. But yeah, I just don't think the Vikings are going to be too much of a threat. So the Vikings at number 24. Number 23, we're going to have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, a lot of you guys, I know I'm going to get a lot, if a lot of people might get mad at this. But, Seattle at number 23. This team, I feel like with Russell Wilson gone, it's rough for them. But if you want Geno Smith, I feel like if he starts for this team, or Drew Lock, I feel like that this Pete Carroll system is going to work for them. It's going to be decent. It's going to make them decent. I think this defense will be much better than a lot of people anticipate. I think that this offense with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, if you're Drew Lock or Geno Smith, this offensive line, with Charles Cross, it got better, but we'll see what happens with at that left tackle spot. It's not great, obviously. The Seahawks team could completely go downhill, but I think that Pete Carroll is going to find a way for this team to be decent enough. I feel like there's an energy there right now about we don't have anything to lose. Last year, they were a contender in my eyes, and they had a lot of pressure. This year, a lot of people are expecting them to suck. So I'm a little bit higher on the Seahawks than most. So Seahawks, I do believe, are the 23rd best team in the league. And at number 22, with the accusation of Baker Mayfield, the Panthers, I feel like, jump up. With Mayfield, I feel like that this makes this team much better. The offensive line, obviously, a huge concern. The defense, been very good for them for the past few years. And yeah, I think this Panthers team with that defense, with Baker Mayfield, I think this Panthers team is going to be a decent team. And honestly, I could see this team I was debating putting them in the hunt, but I don't think that they're there quite yet. I think this team is trying. It's just the offensive line is going to be tough with Baker Mayfield. Receiving core not great. The offense just not going to be good enough, I think, even with Baker coming in. But the defense, this is what this Panthers team's trying to do, I guess. Establish a good running game, have a great defense. Maybe you could pull off some upsets. Very similar to what the Seahawks, I feel like, are going to be doing just below them. And then, so now we're done with like a 6 straight NFC teams. We're moving on to AFC teams now. Number 21, this is with Deshaun Watson out. The Browns. This is with Jacoby Brissett. It's very tight, I think, between the Panthers and the Browns. But I think the Browns' defense is a little bit better. I think their offense a little bit better. Jacoby Brissett, worse than Baker. But, I feel like all the factors come in to make the Browns a better team than the Panthers. But, yeah, that trade not looking great for the Browns. If they can get back to Deshaun Watson – and Deshaun Watson gets back to playing his football, this team could be a contender. But, without him, Jacoby Brissett, we know what he's going to do. I think he can do some stuff, but I don't see them doing really anything this year if Jacoby is a starter. We'll try and power the ball with Nick Chubb, play good defense, but a lot of teams in this decent tier, I feel like they're going to be doing the same thing, and I don't think it's going to work. Number 20, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think a lot of people are going to be saying, how can you not put the Steelers in the hunt tier? They haven't had a losing season, 20 years? Yeah, the Steelers, Mike Tomlin has done a great job, and I feel like that this is going to be his toughest stretch, the toughest year in this AFC. That's very difficult, especially that AFC North. With the Ravens, um, with the Bengals, it's going to be a tough year for them, I think, to make the playoffs. Especially since some of these teams below them, I think, with the Jets could surprise this year. But, yeah, I mean, the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, I feel like that he can maybe do something for them. But I don't think it's gonna do enough for the Steelers. I feel like the Steelers are going to, be a team that decent as they always are. But I don't think that, honestly, I think this will be their first losing season in a very long time. And I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs either. So that's where I think the Steelers are at number 20. And then finishing out the decent tier at number 19, we got the Tennessee Titans now. Trading away A.J. Brown makes the Titans worse. The Titans were just the number 1 seed. So I was debating putting them in the hunt tier. Maybe I'm disrespecting the Titans a little bit too much here, but Derrick Henry, obviously a great running back for them. But, I just feel like with this AFC has just got way better this year. And I don't think the Titans are good enough to keep up. And especially without A.J. Brown. Ryan Tannehill doesn't really have a target to go through. Obviously, the defense is it's decent. So we'll see what happens with the Titans. I think this team, they're very well coached, just like the Steelers. But I don't think that this team, I think they took 2 steps backwards to take, 1 step backwards to take 2 steps forward in the future with trading away A.J. Brown. And we'll see if it works out for them. We'll see. But yeah, that's rounding out the decent tier. A lot of decent teams this year. But in the hunt now, we go. Starting out the number 18 team, which is the Saints. Now, losing, obviously, their head coach is rough for the Saints. He's been such a good head coach for them. But still, Jameis Winston looked very solid before he got his injury. This defense has been good for a very long time. They got some decent receivers. Michael Thomas is coming back. I think with all that together, this team is very much in contention to make the playoffs, especially in this NFC that I feel like that 7th seed's wide open. So yeah, I feel like the Saints are a solid enough team there at number 18. And then number 17, we're pushing into the playoff tier because it's all wonky down when you get into this, because I feel like the AFC is just a better conference than the NFC just as a whole. So the Cardinals, I don't think this team would make the playoffs in the AFC, especially without DeAndre Hopkins with the 6-game suspension. It's very tight between the Saints now with that. The Cardinals, hopefully this team could just have a consistent year all the way through. Because if they don't, they're not going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think that the Saints could sneak up on them and take that spot, or even maybe the Panthers, Seattle, Minnesota, even the Lions could do it. But yeah, the Cardinals, they got to get something together. Kyler Murray, you got to have a full, consistent year. They got the talent to do so. They got to put it together this year. All right, so first playoff team off the board there. Number 16, we're going the Patriots. Mac Jones, I feel like, is going to take a big step this year. Unfortunately, they're in a very tough conference this season, so it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs. I don't think that they're going to make it, but as long as you have Bill Belichick as your head coach in this defense, this team, I think, should be in the hunt. And, very similar to the Steelers, I just feel like that they got a much better quarterback scenario going for them. and a better run game, to be honest. I mean, Najee Harris is, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't actually go too far, but yeah, the Patriots, I feel like at number 16, safe. I was debating not putting them in the hunt here, but they have Bill Belichick as their head coach. Mac Jones, I think in his second year, he's going to take a good step up, and hopefully the Patriots can maybe surprise and slide into the playoffs. Surprise me. But number 15, I got the Miami Dolphins. Oops, not decent here. Miami, obviously that trade for Tyreek Hill, they've improved this offensive line. They're giving every reason for Tua Tagovailoa to succeed. This is his year. If he can't succeed in this, you're done, Tua. No more excuses. So Tua's got to take that step. Honestly, I think Tua's going to be decent enough this year for them. I don't think he's going to be what they want from him, but I think decent enough. Oh, oops. Sorry about that, guys. There you go. Okay, so yeah, I think Tua will be decent enough for them to be a team that can, maybe slide into the playoffs, maybe 9-8 season for them, but just barely miss out, I think, for the Dolphins. And then, so now we're getting into teams, the playoff tier. We got one more in the hunt team, and then that's it. But now we're getting into playoff tier with 3 teams coming up. Number 14, I think, is the Eagles. And I think the Eagles are the 6th best team in the NFC. So they will slide in to the playoffs. And the Eagles, I do think that they are with Jalen Hurts, traded for A.J. Brown, this defense, they did a lot of good things. Jordan Davis coming in, that's a big accusation for them in the draft. This Eagles team, I feel like, is going to be very solid this year. And maybe, another one of these teams that's giving Jalen Hurts every reason to succeed. No more excuses. I think Jalen Hurts can succeed. And honestly, I think he might. But this team, we'll see what happens with that quarterback scenario and situation next season. But yeah, I think the Eagles are going to be a solid team this year and a playoff team. Number 13, we got the Colts with Matt Ryan. I feel like he's definitely an upgrade to Carson Wentz. Veteran quarterback, Jonathan Taylor has a decent defense. Just everything you need from the Colts, I feel like, to win that division. That's the one division I feel like is going to be easier for them to win. Matt Ryan, bringing some of that experience to that team, being able to make the playoffs. We'll see what they would be able to do in that. But, yeah, the Colts definitely, I think, will make the playoffs. I just don't think that they're going to be a contender or win the Super Bowl or anything with Matt Ryan. But taking a good step forward this year and actually making the playoffs. All right, so number 12, we got San Francisco, the 49ers here. And the 49ers at number 12 got a very good everything else besides quarterback. It's just Trey Lance, very unknown. So Jimmy G, I don't think he's going to be starting. But Trey Lance, I don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to be good? Is he going to be not great? We don't really know. We'll see what happens when the season starts. But I don't think this team is going to be a contender. But obviously, they're very well coached. If anyone can make Trey Lance a star, it's Kyle Shanahan. And I think this Niners team will be obviously got a good defense. Just a very similar team to last year. Just a good, solid playoff team. And maybe if Trey Lance can hit, you got a contender there because they got everything built around him right. So, yeah. So now we're getting into our final in the hunt team, which in the AFC, I think would beat out the Niners, Eagles, and Cardinals to make the playoffs. And even the Colts if they were in that division. And that is the Baltimore Ravens, just barely missing out on the playoffs. Now, with the schedule, I think not with this, if we're just going off best, I think best teams to make the playoffs. I don't think the Ravens just miss out. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see at the schedule because the schedule is very wonky in the AFC with that 4 teams in the AFC West. But we'll get to that later. The Ravens had an excellent draft. This team isn't going to be all injured this year. This team has everything in place to be a team that can make the playoffs. And I think that's what the Ravens are going to try and do with Lamar Jackson. But it's going to be tough, honestly. All right, moving on to number 10, we got the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys, I was thinking, is this team good enough to be a contender? No, because we haven't. Every time they get into the playoffs, they just choke. So I don't know if I can do that unless they look really good in the regular season. I just don't think I can bring myself to put them there quite yet into the contender tier. I just don't think that they're ready. And they're gonna have to prove at some point that they can win some playoff games to be in that for me. But I just don't think it's there yet. But we all know what we're gonna get from the Cowboys. I think they'll be a good team this year and win a lot of games. So number 9, we got the Las Vegas Raiders taking a big leap. Now the thing is this is a very tough AFC. This is the 7th seed at number 9 in the AFC. This is where the Raiders are. And with the Colts at 4 seed because they're in their own division. But the Raiders, it's tough because this team is so good, but they're in the toughest division. And with Devontae Adams, all that they've added there, I think this team is going to be a very good. But, with the schedule, I don't know. We're going to have to see when I do my final season predictions where they end up. So, Raiders, I do believe, are number 9. And then number 8, I think, are the Chargers here. Chargers to round out this playoff tier. Very close to putting them into contender with Justin Herbert. But what's keeping me back is playoff experience for the Chargers. They got all the pieces put together. Now it's time to get in the playoffs. And I don't think this is going to be their year to – I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think this is going to be their year to click and win the Super Bowl this year. I think that they're going to need maybe at least one more year of playoff experience to get there. But this team's very close to being a contender right now. It's just that playoff experience is just keeping me from putting them in there. All right, so let's get into the contender tier now. Okay, so number 7, I got the Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals coming off their Super Bowl loss. It's tough, whatever. But the Bengals, they've improved their offensive line. I think this team's going to be a contender. It's just a lot of teams we've seen have struggled after a Super Bowl loss. So I think that might be it. Bengals, hopefully they can repeat in the AFC Championship. But number 6, I do think, is Green Bay. Obviously, losing Devontae Adams is going to hurt them. But this defense, I feel like, has gotten better. And you got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. That's going to be enough, I feel like, for you to be a contender. Number 5, we got Kansas City Chiefs, another very similar team to Green Bay. You lost Tyreek Hill, but even more so than Green Bay, you very much improved your defense, and that is going to be big time for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. Travis Kelce is going to be a good tight end. So they're just a little bit better at a lot of things than Green Bay. And then number 4, we got the Rams. Super Bowl champs. Obviously, the Rams with Matthew Stafford did all he could last year, but I don't think this team, right now, could they repeat? They definitely could. I wouldn't pick it, but, I don't know how this team's getting this much money. It's going to hurt them in the future, I would assume, but we'll see what happens there. but the Rams obviously contender. Number 3, we got the Buccaneers. And, okay, sorry guys, it cut off there for a bit. But yeah, number 3, the Buccaneers. Obviously with Tom Brady and all that. Adding Julio Jones is going to be big for them. Tom Brady, without him, this team wouldn't, I don't even know. Man, that NFC South would be very interesting. But with him, this Buccaneers team is a contender. This defense is excellent. And obviously the Buccaneers are going to be a good team for a while. I mean, not a while, but good team this year. I mean, I don't know how long Tom Brady's going to last, but at this point. But yeah, Tampa Bay, I feel like that's that. And then moving on to number 2, probably surprising a lot of people, but Denver Broncos, adding Russell Wilson onto this team, I feel like is going to help them take a big step this year. And I think this team's been a quarterback away for a while. I feel like the receiving core is good. The defense is really good. And I feel like Russell Wilson, I am a very Russell Wilson standby, and I think that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I feel like he is going to lead this team to have a very good season and be a contender. I definitely could see this team being the next Rams. A lot of people thinking the Broncos are overrated or overhyped. I feel like that they're underrated and underhyped, honestly. I know that's surprising to say, but I feel like this team's number 2, and that's probably about as high as you'll see it. But number 1, finally, Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have everything going towards them this year, I feel like. They added Von Miller. They have an excellent defense. They have an excellent receiving core, an excellent quarterback, an excellent they have a good excellent offensive line. And they're coming off of a game where they barely lost the Super Bowl to a coin flip. This team is going to have a lot of steam under them. And this team, I feel like, is going to be very angry and good enough, I feel like, to win the Super Bowl. This team, I think, is the best team in the NFL this year. And I don't even know if it's too close between the number 2 team. But anyway, guys, that is the power rankings. Comment down below, your rankings if you want. And hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, peace out.